Nobody Named Kevin podcast, episode 9. All right. Is there anybody in this room who may be named Kevin?
I'll never admit to it.
That's suspicious. Okay. No, not at all.
All right. So I have something I want to ask y'all that I've been kind of marinating on. Not really marinating, actually. It literally kind of popped up in my mind. What happened to a good schoolyard fight? Like a solid, I got beef with you. Here's the date. Here's the time. Let's have an honorable fist fight about this subject. And why isn't it allowed in corporate America? What happened to that? Why can't Steve from accounting and Kevin from LP have some beef? Like, where did that art of a schoolyard fight or a bathroom fight, in this sense, get lost? Why can't Steve from accounting and Kevin from LP have some beef at work? Like, hey, bro, I'm tired of your passive-aggressive emails. I'm tired of you not getting your tasks done and me picking up the slack, right? And then, like, everybody in the office meets in the bathroom at 4 p.m., and these two are duking it out. Steve's got Kevin up on the sink, bashing his brains against the mirror, and the VP has to come in and break it up, and the janitor acts like he saw nothing, even though that's the best thing the janitor's seen in 6 months. What happened to that lost art? That's my problem. Why is this not a thing in corporate America?
I mean, it depends on where you're at, man. Because, like, there are still mutual combat states.
It's not common in corporate America.
Okay.
Why is it not a thing?
Yeah, because the reason is what ends up happening is everybody fights. Someone gets their ass whooped every single time. All right, cool. I'm not going to work at this company anymore. So now you just have a revolving door. You can't do it at a company.
It would lessen the snakery. It would lessen the politics if it was kind of assumed. It's like, hey, dude, you want to stab me in the back? That's fine. We're going to have a gentleman's discussion about it.
You realize the problem with that,
You're going to meet me in the bathroom. We're going to squash this real quick. And we're going to be best friends after.
Okay, cool. Like,
there would have to be some sort of referee
to
make sure someone doesn't, like, go overboard and, like, snap a limb or, like, paralyze someone.
No fights go that hard. They're not professional fights.
The thing that you're banking
snap
on,
a limb.
The thing that you're banking on is that it will end at, like, oh, we're best friends afterwards. No, people take stuff with them nowadays, dude. You don't just fight and drop the subject. And then on top of that, too, you're like, oh, cut out all the snakery. No, what if I'm the snake? I know I can take you in a fight. Get at me. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you're a bully. You're a bully. And people are gonna have to fight you like a Mortal Kombat tower. You're going to be at the top. You're like, well, you don't want to mess with that guy. He can fight. It's like, well, we're going to keep fighting him until he folds.
Yeah, no,
bullies will get dealt with.
It just doesn't work. Like, if
there's bullies in the workplace now, but it would be different. There would be less bullies if these bullies could get dropped. These bullies could catch a hammer to the teeth.
Once again, only works if the bully can't fight. Like, if
most bullies can't.
Okay, most bullies can't. Okay, nowadays, I feel like more people take on fighting than anything else. Like, I feel like fighting is very common. So it's like, oh, yeah, only bullies don't do that. It's like, that's not true. It's not true at all.
Bullies don't. Especially because the people that take up fighting are honorable, disciplined people, or they become honorable, disciplined people, dude. Most bullies get rocked because they have a broken home. And they get rocked in their fighting class, and they're like, wow, dude, I don't like getting beat up. I'm not going to do that to people.
Nope. I don't think you understand what ends up happening. I will train to fight, and eventually I will get put in a position of power because no one can backtalk me as a manager because I can beat them all up. Cool. Now I'm climbing up the corporate ladder, but I could have no ability to do this job.
I see no problems because now you finally get what you want. You are now the VP, or you are now the CEO because you are the strongest in the company. You fought your way up the Mortal Kombat tower,
and then the company
just
goes
got real
under.
tribal.
Then the company goes under in like 2 years. There's just this doesn't.
It
solve
got tribal.
anything.
When was it? It's tribal right now.
It's a different level of tribal. It's one of those things like, dude, it just would not work. Like, I'm pretty sure I could probably take Elon Musk in a fight. I have no business running SpaceX. You know what I mean?
But you have to get into SpaceX, and he has to agree to a mutual combat. That's the thing. It's not like you can just walk up and tap him on the shoulder and be like, "Hey, Elon, I'm fighting you today." No, it's a school bathroom fight. It's like we work together. I'm tired of your crap, bro. I'm tired of your crap. You've been pushing my buttons. I'm calling you out. Bathrooms, 4:30, Thursday evening. Next to the broken water fountain, me and you.
So it's like a duel, like an old school duel.
It's a schoolyard fight, dude. What? That's why I'm saying a schoolyard fight. The art of it has been lost because that's how it happened in school, bro. I'm tired of you calling me out. Bathrooms today after 6th period. I'll see you there.
Yeah,
it's
different.
Like, you show up.
It's different because at the end of the day, like I don't know how to describe it, but being a school kid. There's no weight. There's no emphasis. Like, if you lose that fight, all you lose is honor. It's not what, like, I don't know how to describe it. It doesn't work because they have nothing at stake when they do that. Whereas if there's something at stake when it comes to, like, your work position and stuff like that, your paycheck and everything like that, it's not worth it.
It'd be a harder fight because it's like there's more on the line.
It's not worth
honor,
it. It would get taken to the death.
No, I'm not killing Steve from accounting. I'm not killing Steve from accounting. What I'm saying is, it's not to the death. It's like, hey, bro, I'm tired of your crap. I'm just tired of your crap. We need to settle this like men. And after the fight, it's not going to get bad because neither of us can actually fight. We're just going to swing off of instinct. After we fight and we beat each other up and we're like, that hurt, that sucks, it's going to be like, hey, man, I'm sorry I was really passive-aggressive to you. Hey, man, I was sorry I was belittling to you. I'm going to calm down because that hurts when my face gets punched. That hurts having the back of my head banged up against the mirror. That hurts. I'm not going to do that. It's honor. It's honor.
It's just it.
School is the same.
It
wasn't a fight to the death in school. It was...
The whole thing is, and it's starting to bother me because I know you're holding in this stance for no reason other than to just argue about it. But it literally, like, it takes people of honor for it to be an honorable thing. You know how many kids, like, oh, we got in a fight in high school. Immediately the next day, the kid just gets either jumped in the hallway or just gets sucker punched in the hallway after that. Like, it takes honor for it to work, and people just don't have that anymore.
Dude, I don't know, because I had fights in, like, 6th grade that I filmed. They were, like, best friends after the fight. It was like, all right, cool.
It takes...
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, all right, that's enough. Like, we fought, we settled it.
It takes honorable people to do that, and you can't rely on everyone being honorable. It's just that simple.
Also, like
what that create...
said, I mean, it's just like schoolyard fights is different than lunchroom or bathroom fights on the corporate level. Like your livelihood's at stake. Like, I don't know if you're gonna be best friends with this guy afterwards. You're like, I don't care about Mike from accounting. He can lose his job for all I care. I'm taking it. Like,
no one's losing their job. We're not fighting for power. Okay. I think that got lost in translation of, like, if I win this fight, I have your job.
No. Like, I mean, okay, I shouldn't have said that. But
no,
still,
but
like,
here's the thing, though. It's
the threat of someone at your workplace.
It's literally like no one would stay at their job.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't bully people. And I don't bully people now, but I'm saying, like, there would be less bullies. Because it's like, if you want to bully somebody, you're going to get dealt with. I'm not saying, like, there's a constantly scheduled fight. Or it's a fight for your job. It's like, if there's two guys that got beef, settle it.
I don't know if you realize prideful people, especially at that level as an adult, They don't back down, even if they lost. Like, even in high school, how often where you would watch a one-sided fight, and the person who got destroyed somehow thinks that they won, and it's like it's so obvious you didn't.
Well,
and then now everyone in the workplace is gonna be chatting about it and everything like that. Oh, they think I lost. Well, okay, now it's time for round 2, and here we go again, doing the same thing that doesn't solve the problem.
Okay, I get that. The thing is, it's when the person that lost was like, oh, I actually won. They got beat up. Okay, they are more scared next time to go on for round 2. And if they do, they're still going to get dealt with. There's going to be less bullying. Because here's the thing, the prideful people, the people right now, they're like, I'm going to bully everyone at the bottom, everyone lower on the ladder. I'm going to bully the people who think they're above me because they can't do anything about it. They'll get dealt with. And then they're going to be like, dude, I don't like getting beat up. I don't like this idea.
You're just wrong, and I don't care to argue it anymore on that. Like, it's just, that's not how it works.
I mean, it's okay.
But that's the thing. But would it create an honorable culture? Because y'all keep saying, well, honorable people. Would it create that? Because it's like, you're going to get beat up if you keep doing that.
I don't think it would, and the problem is because to create that, it has to start at a young level, and the problem is when you're young, your mind is very formative, and as we've all learned, that trauma is a real thing, so it's like, yeah, you just can't do it anymore.
I mean, it used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Just raising children in combat.
Are y'all saying like honor has been lost? Like it's
no, not honor. Like just raising children in combat. But
I'm saying in general, honor is not much of a thing anymore. How many slimy people do you know that like have moved up in their company and are like, you shouldn't have that position?
And you wouldn't be there had someone dealt with you, had someone stronger and more skilled dealt with you. And
no. Like, that's not what we're arguing at this point. You are arguing and asking, has honor been lost? I am telling you yes, and here's why. And you're like, well, that wouldn't have happened. It doesn't matter what would have happened. We're talking about, could you do it now? And I'm telling you no, because this is the problem that we exist with.
Right, and that's what I asked, though. But, like, it's like, okay, is that because honor has been lost? But it's like, could we recreate that? Implementing the system, implementing this art back.
I think the problem's already there and you can't deal with it. Like, you can't deal with it at least in
too
that
far
manner.
gone.
Yeah, I guess that would be my argument to that.
Too far gone. Okay, well maybe we can stop it. We can meet it at the pass, and we implement it now.
No,
because there would be a weekly event. Like, bro, Jerry's about to get dealt with. Jerry, the Jerry that's always on my case. Yeah, that Jerry. Bro, he's about to get dealt with. Thursday, 4:30 p.m., bathrooms by the Pepsi.
And then
bro, he's going to get dealt with.
The next problem you have is like, all right, cool, I'm just going to run with the clique. And you get into the same problems that go on now. Like, oh, is going down in the bathroom? All right, cool. Who's going to be there? I've got my 6 boys coming. There's not enough room in the bathroom. Then a jumping happens. It's like, no, it just doesn't work. Like, there's a reason why honorable...
Or is it a gang war?
The thing...
6 on 6, bro.
Dude, it always ends... Like, it's the same thing nowadays. It's like with kids fighting. You cannot rely on the other person being a fair fighter or anything like that. There is a reason why kids get jumped nowadays and stuff like that, because nobody cares about a fair fight. The only fair fight is the one that you win.
That's
the thing.
So many people just show up with guns, dude. Like,
okay, no, we're not doing
in real life.
In the ideal realm where we fight in the bathroom, bringing a gun is too far. Oh, my bad. Oh, yeah.
People walk around with guns now.
It's a fight, and now you're like, gun combat and gang warfare. It's like, okay,
that's what I'm.
The schoolyard fight. Where in the schoolyard fight does it pistols and chains get brought?
What I'm telling you,
someone brought a Minotaur.
Is the idea of a schoolyard fight no longer exists. which is what we already discussed.
The people in the snow. No schoolyard fight happened there. He just came out and just killed them both. They could have had a little fight right there. Two men in the schoolyard, right there in the street. But no, killed them both.
That was the whole question I kicked this off with. The art of the schoolyard fight is what happened to a good schoolyard fight. And we are back at, I would kill them. I have guns. I have gang war. I have click influence.
That's
what I'm saying.
Literally,
should we implement that back?
No, and we've said no. That's what we're telling you is no, it can't happen because the problem is we are too far gone on that. Like, that's the thing. Nowadays, it is no longer like who wins the fight and that's honorable. Like, we are not the same people we used to be. Like, there is a reason.
Why doesn't UFC have guns?
That is different. That is literally where they mutually agree, sign contracts. That's what they do for a living. They have a choice to do that for a living. Me not being a professional cage fighter does not affect my day-to-day life. But if I refuse to fight Steve from accounting, now it affects my day-to-day life.
Because they know you're not about it. And you were never about it, and you shouldn't have been passive-aggressive with your emails.
That's just it. I could have just been minding my own business. And Steve just got a problem with me because, I like the office at 70 degrees instead of fucking 75.
Meet me at the bathroom if you want to get dealt with. Okay. But schoolyard fights were never about a misinterpretation. If they were, the guys would talk it out. The council would have a meeting. The boys would have a meeting. Like, bro, I didn't mean that. You didn't mean that? Well, I took it this way. If it comes off that way again, we're gonna have problems. But bro, it's cool.
Once again, we're getting in a circular argument of because things have developed past that. Honorable fights are not a thing anymore when it comes to beef like that. It doesn't happen. It is very, very rare. Oh, children do that. Then why do kids get jumped in schools?
No.
Why do kids get shot? Like, it's because it is
children are more civilized than the corporate world.
Okay, yeah, because we literally know someone who has, because at a McDonald's the person wouldn't pull forward, slammed his car into theirs. Oh, yeah, because you can think all adults are rational? No, they're not. There are stupid people out there, there are reasonable people out there, and there are crazy people out there. It is a thing.
So how thin is the thread that's holding society together then?
It's always a thin dance.
Basically, I was saying the schoolyard fight's a lost art. We've also established, okay, school kids are more civilized than corporate America because of the McDonald's drive-through line. How thin is the thread stopping all of this chaos from happening?
Extremely. Law is the thread that barely even holds now. Barely.
Is it?
I would say, but the combination of money, law, and resources, I don't know, between those three things, if we lost one, the other two would fall out of balance, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. People were fighting each other over toilet paper a year ago.
Resources, which is a resource that was unnecessary at the time as well.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's very thin.
On top of that, go back to our primitive ancestors and stuff like that. Even before we had Law and Order, what was happening? Oh, I don't like him because he's from another tribe. I'm gonna go kill him now. Like, there are some
they need to live my way of life.
There are some people who literally, the only thing stopping them from murdering people is literally because there is a law saying that they can't.
They'd be put in a jail.
Yes.
Had it not been for the law, I would have slaughtered you had it not been for the laws of this land. Yeah.
Dude, even take it from our industry. Even then, how many times have we had customers make actual threats about harming us? And it's like, if there wasn't a law, they probably would.
If there wasn't a law, because they're predicating it on the idea that I won't do the same. Because I've had people that I know call that bluff out and they not show up. Okay, I'll see you in the bargain lot. And then they didn't show because they're predicating that on the other person's like, well, you won't break the law. And that person's like, actually, I will. And then it didn't happen. That person walked away because the other person that got challenged said, cool, I'll be there. And they didn't show.
Probably because they were just like, I mean,
Even then,
it's not
it
worth
is
the charge that could possibly happen
exactly
or the
like
damage. I'm just gonna leave.
it's literally one of
Oh, it snapped him back to reality of like, I'm about to get dealt with. I shouldn't talk to people like that.
okay.
I
Think
mean,
about
maybe.
once again, it comes down to an honor thing. If there are no laws and there's no honor, think about how many customers that we know that carry because we're in Texas.
Oh.
They don't need it to be a fair fight. Oh, you want to mouth off? Cool. Gun goes out. It's very quick. It does not take long to pull a gun and pull that trigger. So
I'm not advocating killing people.
But that's my thing, is like that thread of the law is what holds us together half the time.
Barely. So thin.
It
like
doesn't. Well, that's just it. It doesn't for some people, but it keeps the mass in order.
How many, dude? But how many? Most of this is COVID related. How many fights are pending because of COVID? Like how many in schools were like Thursday at the bathroom, and then lockdowns happened and school ended, and they're just waiting. There's just how many fights are pending because of a pandemic? Like when school's back in session, or did they drop it? You know what I mean? Like I have imagined there's like a queue of fights lined up that like I'm still mad a year later in another grade in another school.
I don't know. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. Like when I highly doubt people are holding the beef for 2 years when it comes to something like that. Like, dude, when you're kid brain, you get over stuff pretty quickly. Like, if it's been 2 years, you may know, like, deep in your heart, I don't like that person, but you kind of just drop it.
Not worth
the person who was gonna lose the fight dropped it for sure. They're like, you know what? I don't think I want to beef with that guy 2 years later.
Yeah, okay. So what's our next topic? What do we got? Because it's not going anywhere. It's just literally fight, bring it back to high school.
No, dude, it's the thread of society is so thin, and I'm glad we all agreed the thread of society is just can snap at any point based off of schoolyard fights, the lost art. I think this is a good documentary that needs to happen. I want people like going in schools. I want kids. It's like Dominic, age 9. He's like, yeah, you know, I told him if he drew a picture of me like that again, or if he pushed my girlfriend, I was gonna jump him in the bathroom. Like I want like a documentary style, the art of the schoolyard fight. Right, HBO exclusive. I want highly produced and everything. You know, I'm just glad that somehow led to the threat of the fabric of society. But speaking of the threat of society, okay, the idea that we have feral people living in mountains still, how is that possible? How have we not brought them down to the suburbs? Like, how do you have feral people that we can't interact with in the mountains?
You can.
It's not even. It's not even that. It literally just like, why can't we contact them? Because they don't want to be contacted. There are people who like live everyday lives like us, have just finally had enough. Cool, I'm going to the mountains. I'm gonna just live off the land, just like everyone else did. If I die, whatever. If I live, whatever. Like, it comes.
Pay for stuff?
Because why not? Like opportunity. It's just a crime of opportunity. Like the feral thing and like of people living in the Appalachians, like it doesn't surprise me at all. Like what's more mind-boggling to me is knowing that those feral people are there and people still will go on the like there will be people who solo hike the whole Appalachian Trail by themselves.
I did not.
I don't think they know they're there. Yeah, I think they don't know they're there.
It's just weird to me because like it's one of those things too that it's like it's a normal thing. But, like, they don't have, like encampments or society. Like, the people comb these woods for search parties and stuff like that of, like, oh, you know they were here, now we search the area. It's super weird to me that it's, like, they don't have a group. They just hang out there by themselves, and there's tons of them.
It is weird, bro.
And then on top of that, to be crazy enough to be like, yeah, I'm going to go hiking by myself in the Appalachian Trails.
I don't think it's common knowledge.
I don't. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I don't think they know.
Here's
these
my
feral
thing, though.
people.
If you're hiking in the woods, I assume you do research. Like if you're doing like hiking in the Appalachian Mountains and stuff like that, and hiking the Appalachian Trail, feel like you do your research and you stumble upon that. Like I don't think everyone's happy-go-lucky when they're doing searches for stuff. They're like, okay, also, what could go wrong? What do I need to prepare for to go wrong? And then they're like, top 10 things you need to prepare for in Appalachia. And they go through all the normal ones, like make sure you have your compass, have stable food and water. And I always feel like 10 at the very bottom is feral people in Appalachia.
I would imagine that'd be number 1. It'd be like, number 1, watch out for the feral mountain people who are sometimes cannibal if food's slow.
Well, the other thing is, too.
Number 2, compass and a bedroll. Number 1, though, is like cannibals.
The other weird thing is to me, too, is like people will go out there and do that with no protection. There will be people who are like,
need a gun.
I'm going to go hiking through the middle of the woods where there are wild animals, even if you don't know about feral people and stuff like that. And you're not like, I should probably bring a gun for my safety. Like, even if you're not considering feral people, like, what if you just run into, like, a crazy person out there or a serial killer out there? Not even feral, like, things that we know exist in our normal society. People do terrible stuff all the time. Why would you go unprotected?
You are equating 2 totally different archetypes of people. The person who researches and prepares doesn't go outside. The person who's like, let's just see what's out there in the world, gets nabbed up by feral mountain people and eaten alive, skin first. They're 2 different people that you're equating. The person that prepares is like, this is a terrible idea, I'm not going.
Here's the thing, though. Like, when it comes to, like, doing super... Like, I'm gonna... like, the guy who hiked the whole Appalachian Trail. Like, that is an accomplishment. That's a milestone. You have to prepare for that. So, like, my thing is, like... Because the normal thing is, and the most things that they say is, like, the people on the normal paths, stuff can happen, but it's very rare. Like, there's not feral people attacking the normal path. It's just more like, I guess, the people who just wander off and don't know what they're doing. Like the person who's like, I'm going to just hike for the day and try to get back. And they get lost coming back. Like it's inexperience that I feel that are making this huge mistake. Because like, I don't feel like an overly experienced hiker. Like I forget what it is. There have been people who like in the Appalachian Mountains, like, they have like stories and stuff like that where they were being chased. Like they were like, I'm gonna hike off the path. I don't want to be with people. I'm an experienced hiker. This is what I love to do on weekends. I'm overly prepared. And they're just like, yeah, I just got this uneasy feeling I was being watched. Then I heard some rustling. I saw a thing and I was like, okay. And then the thing doesn't leave them alone the whole night. And then they're like, all right, I'm getting out of here in the morning. And they trek. And it's like, I went for like 24 hours straight. And then decided to go try to lay down and catch some rest because I didn't want to get more lost. And the thing was still following me.
Nope.
Nope.
Dude, I went hiking in Arizona and we were not prepared. It was just like a regular trail, I guess. But
there you go.
Yeah, we had just like 2 bottles of water and like 2 granola bars. Yep. And we're just
There's
like,
the 2 archetypes of people right there. There is you, Clayton, who prepares and says, this is a horrible idea, I'm staying home. And there is Q, the type of person that just, let's go with the water bottle. That is there my point.
Even then, my thing is...
And we even came home and it was nighttime. It was kind of sketchy. I was like, we were like power walking. I was like, because... We were like, we can make it down before the sun comes down. We did not.
Did you go on like an actual trail?
Like my point just came to life.
Yeah, it was an actual trail, but it was like we had to drive 4 miles into the desert and then get out of our car and hike up the trail. So we're like in the desert, dude. And we went up and did the trail. It's called the Wave Cave. It was like a really casual one, I'm sure. It was like a 2-hour hike.
Of like,
it was nighttime on the way down.
How
sketchy.
Okay. What makes you think, oh, this will probably take this much amount of time? Or like while you're walking up there of like, oh, it's taken me like an hour to get up here. Why does your brain not register like, if we hang out and enjoy ourselves, we're probably not going to make it back before dark. Why is that not something that kicks in the back of your brain of like, this might be a bad idea?
It did, but at the same time, I was so tired, and I had just finally climbed up there. I was like, I'm going to eat my granola bar and sit here for 30 minutes. And then I did, and then started making my way back down. But yeah, I mean, it was dark on the way down. And
then on top of that, why did you pick such a bad time to go do it? Why weren't you like, we'll go in like the morning or the middle of the day? Why were you like, it's probably like 6 o'clock. We could probably do it.
Dude, yeah, we started at, I think like 4:30 or 4 or something. And then, so it made us it was like 2 hours to get up or 2. And so, yeah, on the way home, it was going down.
Your brain just confuses me. Like, I don't get how you just don't have this like survival instinct. It's just
I did when it got dark. I was like, dude, we got to get out of here.
Yeah, but my survival instinct myself is like, this is probably a bad idea. We should probably do this at a better time. Instead, you're like, let's just try it. It's like, why?
I mean, we're armed with granola bars. In the worst case scenario, I'm going to pop one of these and take on this lion.
We're halfway up there, and it was starting to get low, and I was like, we're already here. I'm tired. Got to do it.
I mean, same. I'm with you, Clayton. I literally been like 4:30. That looks cool. Let's come back in the morning.
Yeah,
and then maybe by then I can convince her I don't want to do it anyway. So let's do something else. But either way, I'm gonna win because we're doing it when we have plenty of daylight, or we're just not doing it at all. Yes. 2 hours in the evening, armed with a water bottle and a granola bar.
It just blows my mind that your brain just doesn't click of like survival instinct of like, oh, hey, it's kind of late. It's taken us this long to get this far. Like, how much further do we have to go? Like, why does your brain not click of like, we still got like 45 minutes of walking ahead of us, and it just doesn't quite seem like we're going to make it there at a good pace.
It didn't click till the way down, dude. On the way up, we were like taking pictures and like.
That's where you messed up. You probably had enough time if you didn't stop to take pictures.
Yeah.
Pictures are
there were some I think giant cactus.
I think
that's my thing. I'm just not big on
pictures.
I think
the entire scenario, like the entire thing lining up to it. How much, how much was smoked? How much was consumed before this makes sense? And even then, being high, like I want to do something physical. Yeah.
Dude, and then we ate like 2 or 3 edibles on the way there that hit about halfway up. My head was spinning. I was like, whoa.
See, the worst part about this is if you had died out there, I would be upset. But once they told me what they found, I'd be like, I kind of had it coming. Nature got him. Like, it did. The weak die out. I'm sorry.
You would have laughed because the backpack we had was her little tiny, like literally this big, pink Victoria's
the
Secret
news story would have literally read morons try to hike up a mountain and they died. Like, that's the headline.
There is nothing that gets better the more you tell this. It keeps getting worse.
Yeah, like you're just adding more.
Granola bar. It was already at the bottom, and you're like, well, we were high. Well, we were getting higher as we went. Well, not only that, it's like the fact that you're alive is an anomaly in itself.
What? It was a good time.
It's like,
I'm sure it was. That's fine. I'm sure it was. But again, this is the 2 different types of people. Like,
yeah.
This is the 2 different types of people. It makes no sense.
Like, there's just part of me that it's like I don't understand the stopping for pictures thing. Like, I am one of those people that stopping for pictures upsets me. It takes me out of the moment. I want to hike. I want to enjoy the view. The last thing I want to do is take pictures. I don't care what everyone looks at. I don't care. Like, if we go somewhere, it's about us going there, not about taking pictures and showing people that we went there. Like, that's one of those things that bug me. I hate pictures so much, and I'm like that old boomer that like, back in my day, we used to hold lighters at concerts. Yeah, I'm that guy. Like, you're not living in the moment.
Live in the moment.
Yeah, you're not.
Back in your day, you also had a third person with a photo booth, and you had to stand still for 45 minutes to take your photo. You take it both ways, Grandpa. But I agree, like being present in the moment, sometimes it can take you out of it. I mean, I can't hate you for that. I would take photos on the way up if I was hiking with a loved one. But, hey, we're on the mountain. Cool.
My thing is, I know for Quentin, it wasn't like, oh, we stopped and took like 2 or 3 photos. Like, I'll do that. 2 or 3 photos. Like, dude, I went to Corpus to see the ocean for the first time. You know how many photos we took? 1, and it was the first day. That was it.
So there's no...
Like, it's one of those things that I know that, like, 1 or 2 pictures, because I know you do that too, Devin. It's 1 or 2 pictures, and you're keeping going. Whereas I know with Quentin and his woman, it was, we're taking 30 photos till we get the right photo. Then we're going to move up the trail 5 feet and find a better spot to take photos, and we're going to redo the same thing again.
There's quite a few photos.
Yep.
Also while high.
Yeah. Dude, that's why I had to take one next to the giant cactus. It was so cool. I was like, what?
I forget who it was, but there was someone that I used to work with who was like telling me like he went on some vacation somewhere, went tripping on shrooms, and just, me and my buddies did shrooms, and then we just decided to bike around, and we found these old, like, I think it was like Indian ruins or something like that with like some drawings and stuff. And I'm like, why did you think this was a good idea?
No, what happened is he ended up in a bathroom. Somebody sharpied one of the stall walls. I get it. He saw it. They were in Indian ruins.
Okay.
He saw that.
Okay, shrooms are not that. Like,
no,
I think you overestimate what shrooms are. Like, you can still operate as a human on shrooms. It's just like the best way I can describe it is your imagination's more vivid.
There you go. He imagined all those things. You're giving too much credit to a different archetype of people, but which you also hate.
The thing is you make it seem like you can't tell what that line is in between it. You can still see what that line is.
Okay, I have a question going back to where y'all saying he walked up on some Indian ruins, like just some random stuff. Have y'all heard of Randonautica?
No.
Dude, so I don't quite understand it, but it's like an app that it uses quantum calculating or something like that to
some made up term, right?
Yeah, to pinpoint like places that you're supposed to it like asks you these questions and like manifest a place in your mind or something you want, and then like it'll like send you a GPS location and take you somewhere. And like most of the time it's just like very vague or just like these like, nice views or something. But some people like on TikTok or YouTube have been running into like some like just like creepy, weird places. Like one person found a body in a bag on the beach. One person had like, there's like all these weird shit set up in like their forest.
I know how
TikTok
work, and I'm just picturing like, oh hey,
I don't know,
guys,
man.
First off, I downloaded this app. Second off, we went to this location. Third, we found a body. Swipe up for more. Like I'm picture the body.
My thing is body one clearly fake. But like what you were originally saying on of like, oh, let's like, I thought you were talking like, hey, I'm going to do shrooms. Here's where I'm at. Give me areas in the location that'll allow me to have like this kind of trip. Like that's what I thought you were saying. And I was like, that's actually a cool idea for an app. Like, let me help you guide you on this trip. Like that would be cool.
One to any random field.
Well, no, I thinking of like, oh, hey, I'm looking for this kind of trip where, I'm out in nature, but I don't want any like human influence on it. Like, okay, here's this hiking trail. This would be good for you. It's short, safe, but you're in nature, not a lot of human influence. Or like, hey, I kind of want to walk around and find like, where nature has kind of reclaimed it. That's the kind of trip I want to have. Like I was thinking an app like that, and I'm like, oh, that sounds really cool.
It's weird.
That's cool. And here's the problem. Again, like you come to is that people can't be trusted. There's no honor and they're stupid. Yeah. They're going to take the shrooms and then get in the car. And you're like, great. Now these people are on the road. Because they couldn't be like, you could go to the place and then take it. You could. But again, the archetype of person, I'm going to get on the highway on shrooms. Because that makes sense.
At the time.
But no, even then, like there's creepy locations all over the U.S. Like there's abandoned hospitals, stuff like that. Like there's locations like that. Those are kind of cool. Like it's cool, but 90% of the real creepy places are. It's like it's condemned. It is a safety thing. Do not go in there. It has nothing to do with there could be people in there. There could be people in there, but at the same time, you could just be minding your own business, and it just decides to collapse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like, there's also like, how many people are walking in like a trailer house, and like the family took a dump and put it in a bag, and they kept stuff in the freezer. And it's like, we broke into this house. It's like, that's disgusting. It's not creepy.
Sounds very familiar.
I don't know. Dude, that's like my thing with TikTok. That's really weird to me too. Is the amount of fake content people can get away on there with. Like YouTube.
Dude, so what's weird is I heard of this app about a year ago, and I had tried it, and like it just took us to like just random locations I couldn't find the meaning to, but it's weird that it's popping up now.
Well, like so that
was right here.
But that's my thing though. It's like that's cool that happened, but like it's super weird to me that TikTok is one of those weird platforms where like creators can just get away with blatantly lying. Like I feel like YouTube, most of that stuff has kind of gotten pushed out, and a lot of people like I feel like back in the day you could get away with lying on YouTube about stuff like that. But as the platform grew, you didn't get to grow with it. Whereas like TikTok, I feel like you can just lie on TikTok and just keep growing.
It's just kids, man. It's always going to be kids. I mean, there's like people they're just influencers, people who do vlog type content, people who do prank type content. And it's like, you're like, this is not funny. Like, this is 100% fake. There's always kids. There's always going to be some kids. They're like, oh, this is so legit. This is so cool. And that's the same thing with TikTok. It's on YouTube still. You don't really see it much because your algorithm is like not recommending that, because if it did, you'd be like, this is stupid. But even on YouTube Shorts, there's stuff I come across. I'm like, how does this have 500,000 views? This is frustrating. This is so dumb.
Well, like,
but
YouTube Shorts though, like that can be explained. Like, oh, how does this have 500,000 or like half a million views? Like that could be explained because like the algorithm just suggests it, just because it's been boosted on that platform. Like, you know what I mean? Like YouTube has that clear thing. Like, I forget. Yeah, I want to say it was like the Spiffing Brit did a video on like, I'm going to teach you how to break YouTube if you're a somewhat like smaller creator. Do polls, it gets you this much engagement. Do this, do the YouTube Shorts, because nobody's doing them and it's been around for so long. They've slowly in every algorithm boosted it. So if you do it now, it grabs the algorithm and the algorithm skyrockets it up. And he even proved it in his YouTube videos that he's like, take this video for instance. Take this poll I did, for instance, then look at this video I did. And he like shows like, okay, this is how many more views this video got. And I did this poll, and this poll. And it's because they took part in that poll and everybody's seeing that poll. It's not just people down my subsect. It's much broader. So they vote in that poll one time, just clicking through, just, okay, clicked it. And he's like, even if a third click it, well, now that third is getting pushed my video now. So, like, he took, like, he did it, and I think he was doing, like, 500,000 views before, and then, like, the next few videos where he was showing that exploit, he was getting millions upon millions of it.
And
even
also,
then, though, good.
Well, I mean, I was going to say what you're going to say, Devin, like, it has, like, 500,000 views, like, I believe on TikTok, if you scroll and you're like on the video for like 5 seconds or so, I believe it counts as a view. I don't think you have to even sit there the full 60 seconds.
Well, I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing with YouTube. YouTube only, like, you have to watch a certain percentage or whatever it is. It's algorithms that we can't see anymore. But
plus, the whole platform is just it's just Instagram. It's just like swipe, 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 swipe. So I mean, like 500,000 views. I mean, we already have like, I mean, on the little TikTok that I posted, like 90 views on one. That's more than any of the YouTube videos.
Well, dude, so like, I don't know if you know this, but like CPM back in the day, which was like your ad revenue that you used to get as like a content creator on YouTube, you used to make like stupid amounts of money for ads. And nowadays it's gotten reduced and reduced and reduced. So like I think about those TikTok people, and I feel like TikTok still has that gate open where people are still getting tons of money for ad revenue and stuff like that, and for bringing people to the platform. I feel like the tap hasn't been slowly shutting off like it did with YouTube.
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, when the content on TikTok is like what, on average, like maybe a minute, if that, probably lower than that, like they're probably going off base some percentage of like, you need to watch at least like a 20th of this video and it counts as a view. And it's like, well, okay, if it's only a 30-second video, cool, it counts.
Yeah, I mean the max is 60 seconds. So.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure it's like, okay, they watched like half of it. All right, cool.
View.
I think though the thing we got hung up on though is that what started that rabbit hole was that I'm like, you're like there's always going to be new kids coming onto a platform that like don't realize stuff is fake yet, and that they're like, well, this is cool.
Oh, yeah.
This guy is cool, and then it's like older people get recommended it, and then some older people take offense to it, and they comment. They're like, "This is stupid. You suck. You should not make these."
Well,
and it just keeps going because then it boosts the algorithm because now people are interacting with it more.
Well, see,
and it's like it has a reverse effect that they thought. They're trying to bury it, and it's boosting it.
Well, this is where we get in that same like kind of rabbit hole as like YouTube went down, like where you get in the argument of like, should you be allowed to influence your audience of kids that way by lying? You know what I mean? Because like that was a big argument. I can't remember the YouTuber's name, but he would anytime like, oh, Michael Jackson died. His next video would be a picture of his iPhone with the name Michael Jackson as the content, and like, oh, I spoke to him at 3 a.m. on a Ouija board. Like,
oh my God, I remember those videos. Yeah,
that's like it went down that rabbit hole of like it went and brought up that topic point of like, dude, should you be allowed to lie to kids like this? You know what I mean? Then we start getting in that rabbit hole on TikTok too. Like, should you, like, you clearly influence kids. There's a reason why the position is called influencer. Should you be allowed to lie to kids like that?
I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. You have to be able to draw a line between like entertainment and
if I go full,
just straight up lying.
Well, if I go full argument, it's like, okay, well then we get into the same thing about like radicalization that's end up happening. Like little things like that can help push that line even unintentionally. So like, is it like the argument at that point is it your responsibility as a creator to be monitoring these children? You get down that rabbit hole.
I don't know. I would say if you're directly marketing the children, yes. Like if you're like you're gearing your content towards them, yes. But if you're like just a creator that just got famous and for some reason you have a huge base of kids, but that was not like how your intentions. I mean, you can't parent all of them, just like the Lil Nas thing.
The argument at that point though is like you didn't get to choose it, but it was chosen for you. So like same thing with like Ninja, like dude ended up getting following by a bunch of kids. He went the direction of like, okay, I have a lot of kids watching me, regardless of whether I have to do it and it's my responsibility. He's going to do it. And that's why he did the like family friendly thing. That's why he didn't curse and stuff like that, because he realized like there are this many kids watching me, even though my intended audience was not kids. It still kind of falls on me because I know they are watching me. I've been made aware of that.
I think you could almost take it back to our last argument. I think there's honorable people and there's not honorable people. Obviously, he's someone
No,
that's
here's the
like,
thing.
I have a platform and I'm going to use it for good. Or no.
Right. So he was a cool guy, but the line between entertainment and reality, because you can always just throw like, well, I was just doing entertainment. No one could honestly believe I texted Michael Jackson. Like, well, kids do. But, okay, they're kids.
Well,
they also think Santa Claus is real.
The argument to that would be like, why don't you put a disclaimer?
So politics and anything in the political sphere should be categorized as entertainment, as works of fiction, because you can lie to adults just like you can lie to kids.
That's true. That's a good point.
Oh yeah, so that goes down kind of that same argument of like, when it comes to kids, if you're doing that kind of content and you know that kids are your main fan base, should you have to put a disclaimer?
Then you'd have to put a disclaimer on every political show ever.
Yeah.
Before any politician speaks, they have to hold up a sign. It's like, all of this is a work of fiction. To take it serious would be comical.
Well, like, so
the speech.
Here's my thing though. When it comes to like, gassy. When it comes to like politics and stuff like that, I feel like politics, 90% of it, at least back in the day, this is my opinion on it. This is the facts that I have. This is how I drew this conclusion. Whereas nowadays, I feel like it's more focused on getting you to that conclusion without telling you like, this is what my conclusion is based on this. Like you look at like Philip DeFranco, who's like, I consider him kind of independent. I feel like he leans a certain way. At the end of the day, like when he does most political things, this is what this side is saying. This is their arguments to this, this, and this, and it could cause this. Here's the argument from the other side saying this, this, and this. This is that argument. Like, kind of giving both sides to it.
I think every political person thinks they give both sides, and they also decide that someone should be dead and not breathe their air.
Well, so
at the same time,
to bring it back to someone that we're all familiar with, Steven Crowder doesn't do that at all. Like, there's a clear bias when it comes to like Steven Crowder of like, if the subject comes up, I automatically know how he stands on it. I don't need to watch the video.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he sits there and thinks like, yeah, I give both sides to the argument. You know what I mean? I feel like he's just like, nope, this is the argument. I'm right. You're wrong.
He's ready to argue.
Yeah.
I think that, but I think every political show thinks they do. I think everybody thinks they do because they're like, well, here's what the left thinks, and top 5 reasons they're wrong.
They already think they know what the other side thinks.
But that's the thing. I don't mean just political shows. I don't mean just Philly D or Steven Crowder. I mean like literally people on Capitol Hill. I mean literally our governing bodies and our president should have a disclaimer that it's all fictional. That's what I mean.
I forget what it was, but I think it came out in like maybe the 80s or the 90s. The person who coined the phrase doublespeak and how politicians always use doublespeak when they go through and say something. So I don't know if either one of you are familiar with what doublespeak is.
I'm not.
It's essentially how
without saying it.
Yes, it's essentially like, oh, I have a negative influx of funds at the moment. Rather than saying I'm in debt. You know what I mean? It's let me say a bunch of words to confuse you so that you don't understand what I'm really telling you.
Yeah.
Lawful evil. Most politicians would fall on the lawful evil alignment of our chart.
But I mean, like what you're saying, David, I think falls a lot under like just the past Trump era where he just says stuff. Like without,
that's like Trump.
He doesn't even try to make it sound fancy. He's just like, "This is what it is." All right.
So I would say Trump is chaotic neutral because it is off the wall either direction for his own benefit. It's like not sometimes it's not so evil, sometimes not so good.
That is true.
Well, I mean that's also like the difference. Like when you look at like alignments like that. Lawful evil doesn't mean that you're not out there just for yourself. You know what I mean? So, like, I get what you're saying. Like, he comes off as chaotic neutral because he just adds fuel to the fire all the time. But if he's if he's doing it to his own benefit, I don't consider that chaotic. You know what I mean? There is a rhyme and a reason why he does it. He does it for his own benefit. It's not just causing chaos for no reason. There's a purpose behind it. Like,
So chaotic evil?
I wouldn't say chaotic evil. I'd almost say lawful evil as well. He just has he has a code that he holds to for himself of like, I'm gonna be the one that benefits it. Like the fact that he has such a specific pattern of this is what I do every single time to play within the bounds of the law. It's like, that's just the argument, right? Like, some people argue he broke the law, some people argue he didn't, and he argues that he didn't. So he feels like he's playing fair within the laws in the context of the law. So I'd almost...
So would most politicians be lawful evil? Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I feel like he's more I don't think he's chaotic neutral. I feel like he's lawful. I don't know if he's lawful evil because that comes down to where you stand politically on it, right?
Where would Joe Rogan fall? Would that be like true neutral or chaotic neutral?
I wouldn't say he's true neutral. Like, because true neutral, like, he gives off this perception that he wants to feel like he's true neutral, but he's really not. I really don't feel like he is. Like, I don't know how to describe it. He's just
it's
not.
just this conversation itself cracks me up. We're doing alignment charts for politicians. Well, not like
Well, wait. I just want to know how Trump is not chaotic evil not lawful evil if every politician's lawful evil.
Right, doesn't it come down to whether you think politicians are evil or not, right?
No, he said
so. Like me personally,
I said chaotic. Clayton said no.
No, but he said he said lawful, but he said I'm not sure about the evil part.
Yeah, because it's a matter of perception, right? It depends on what political side you're on, right?
But just earlier, y'all were like every politician.
So, like,
I
don't agree with that. I don't feel every politician is, but I do feel like if you were to ask me most, yes, I would say most are probably lawful evil. I don't feel like every single one is. I feel like there are some lawful neutral and there are some lawful good. Yeah. But it also depends on what aisle you stand on, right? Like, that's the whole argument of, like, what technically is evil. It's a matter of perception, right? The person that's doing it feels like they're the good guy. Everyone's the hero of their own story.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Exactly. So that's just kind of how I look at that.
They're all telling their own truth.
Yeah.
What is truth?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that's true. That's where you kind of get in the argument of, like, nowadays when it comes to, like, I know it came out of, like, sexual assault of, I'm telling my truth. It could be completely wrong. You're telling your perception of things, so why don't you just say, in my opinion, and what I believe to happen? Like, it's always the phrase, my truth.
Which
is some dangerous water you're treading right there,
dude. That's where I'm saying, though. To me, that comes down the line of doublespeak, isn't it? Like, this is what I call it without really calling it what I believe happened. There's no plausible deniability in it. It gives you this acclamation of credit because you're like, it's mine and it's my truth. So it automatically implicates, like, I'm telling facts here. I'm right. This is my truth. I consider that doublespeak.
Yeah, it can be. I see what you're saying, Devin. A little treacherous waters, but that in itself, the point Clayton's trying to make, can be treacherous waters in society. Mm-hmm. People shouldn't be saying it's my truth. You know,
like here's my thing. I get what, like, my argument isn't that, like, it's not your truth. It's that it's doublespeak. Like, why can't you say what I believe happened is this instead of,
because when you say it's my truth, then you make it personal.
Because there's
Like,
plausibility.
this is straight to me.
When you lead with the words "my belief" and what I think happened, you automatically implant fairy tale in everyone else's mind.
I mean, to a degree, but the argument then isn't it the argument of, like, well, society's wrong in that scenario. That's not my fault that people have that perception of that word. They're incorrect to have that perception. That's not what I'm saying.
which is why people have to use a strong angle, like speak your truth. You know what my truth is, or like what happened from my perspective is this, or not even that. It's like, no, this is what happened. This is 100% true. They have to go so far the other way.
But then you get into the same argument of like doublespeak, right? The same problem with doublespeak is, I'm telling you the same thing. I told you I was in debt, but I told you I had a negative influx of cash. So
That's why I don't mind doublespeak.
My
I
thing
don't
is,
mind doublespeak because it's almost necessary.
To me, it's like it dabbles on that line of like, is it a necessary evil?
Yep.
And I feel like you line on it's a necessary evil, but I have that logical brain that it's like, no. I'm one of those people that in my mind, it's like the truth is the truth. Like you've got to go with the truth. Like regardless of whether it hurts feelings or not, the truth is important.
But like David said, what is the truth if everyone has their own?
I mean, I guess to a degree, but my argument is doublespeak, right? Like in the context that you're talking about, I understand what you're saying. Like when it comes to my truth and stuff like that, but I'm saying the implication of doublespeak itself, he considers it a necessary evil, whereas I'm one of those people that no, society shouldn't work that way. I understand that it does. I don't like that. That's my issue with it.
It's almost like white lies, I guess.
Yeah, that's how I see it. I don't like stuff like that.
No, a white lie is still a lie. Doublespeak is it's. I didn't say this, but I said this, or I said this, but I didn't say this. It literally is lawful evil. It is that. That's why I'm like, I don't mind doublespeak. Because it's almost necessary.
Like I feel like if you watch like the few videos that I've watched on doublespeak, Quentin, you'll understand a little bit more of what we're talking about on it. But it's very, very weird.
Yeah, it's not a white lie, like because that's still a lie. Yeah, it's like you're speaking around the topic. No, it's there's the truth and the truth. There's like it's like you there's two different things to it, but I think the reason why I think doublespeak is necessary, but also it cheapens the word truth, because when you say, well, my truth, what you're actually saying is my opinion, my perspective. But now we've cheapened the word truth. It's anything, because we have to accept as adults that we as a society change the meaning of words, like it or not. It's just like, dude, okay, there's this clip of Aziz Ansari on some late night show where he's like, everybody's a feminist. And it's, whoa, what do you mean, Mr. Celebrity? And he's like, well, by definition, do you agree women should have rights to vote? Or it's something that's like you wouldn't say no to. It is such like a put you in a hard position, put you in a corner of like, if you say no to this, you're terrible. It is like such like a, you can't say no. And the guy's like, well, I mean, yeah. He's like, well, then by definition, everyone's a feminist. And it's like, okay, I understand what you're saying, Aziz. Well, yes, you want to go by the handbook definition? Sure, cool, that's great. But you have to, let's take a step back. Let's look at society. Let's look at the general population and be like, when you think feminist, there's a picture that pops in your mind. What pops in your mind? There is a scenario that pops in your mind. What is that scenario? Let's have an actual discussion besides Mr. Everyone's a feminist. Okay. All right.
Do you want to know what popped in my mind?
I like what Devin said.
A pink hair. What popped in your mind?
Is the one with the glasses and the short hair and like screaming and
that's what you think. But like I did like the fact that Devin pointed out like it cheapens it, and that's where I have a problem with it. I don't like there's some like it's a perception of like some things I'm not willing to compromise when it comes to stuff like that, and those are things that I stand hard on, that I don't like. No, that's not the way that it should work. It's very dangerous to go down that path.
Is it like the same thing in sales? You just kind of word it differently.
You
told them you just worded it differently.
What we do in sales, it is a lot of doublespeak. There is a lot of doublespeak, and there's a reason why so many people, when they get when there are some people that take doublespeak to the nth degree, and they're the ones that always have customers coming back with problems and stuff like that. Because once someone comes out of that and they realize that it was doublespeak, they come back and the same argument happens of like, no, I told you all that. I said this, this, and this. And then the customer gets the realization of, okay, that was doublespeak and they don't like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So that's the thing. You have to walk people through. You have to walk them through doublespeak to bring to the conclusion. But yeah, and I figured you agree on that. It cheapens the work. So that was the whole thing. That's my frustration with that whole clip with Aziz Ansari. It's like, okay, I'm not saying women shouldn't have rights. Okay, I'm not a psychopath. Okay, I wasn't born 150 years ago. To put everybody in that position that you can't say no, you know what you're doing. I'm like, you know what you're doing when you started that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like,
was that really,
when I say feminist, you know what I mean?
was that really the point he was trying to make, or was it just?
I feel like that.
Yes, because he was trying to get everyone as he's like, because he's trying to like not make it a bad thing, because and then he puts you in the angle of, so they shouldn't have rights, and you're like, well I'm not gonna. No, I don't think that. Okay, so you're a feminist, and you're like, okay.
It's essentially like I'm having a conversation with you, but I'm making your argument look extremely stupid by taking it to the furthest degree. Is kind of how it is. It's straw.
And I'm gonna put you.
It's straw man.
Yeah, and I'm also gonna put your reputation on the line because this is being filmed,
mm-hmm.
and you're like, okay, cool, awesome, great. So we can't actually have a discussion.
Yeah, it's just that it's literally like using a debate tactic to back you into a corner, and it's like. Yep. Okay, so we're not having a conversation on this. You're doing it for points,
right? It's just for dog and pony show. Okay, cool. And then everyone applauds, like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that like I think I've done to you and Devin's done to me a few times. When it comes to like, I'll take your argument and I'll make it as ridiculous as I can in the example. It's a tactic. It's to make you look like your position is so stupid. Why would you believe that? Even though that's not the actual discussion that's happening.
It's a little bit of that, but the extra layer on top of it is the virtue on top, the virtue signaling on top of it. You know what I mean? You know, it's like, okay, it's like, you know, what's your opinion on immigration? Oh, blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, so would you believe that kids should be locked in cages? You're like, okay, no, kids shouldn't be. Oh, okay, so your opinion's not that. And you're like, all right, here we go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a pretty good example right there.
Like, I don't know.
I'm like, I didn't say that. What?
See, that's the problem with like politics and stuff like that nowadays. Is it always comes down to trying to score points. It's no longer about actually solving the problem and finding better ways to do things. It's always trying to
get reelected.
It's trying to it's all it is. And like it's weird that in theory, like that idea, like if I were to walk you down the thought pattern of like democracy, of like, of course we can't have it where everyone votes on every single issue. It's not practical, so we have to break it down and make it smaller and kind of go up a funnel with it. In theory, it makes 100% sense. If I'm like, well, I mean, if we have a group of 10 people and they all think one way, well, I mean, if they don't think one way, we just have them put their person up that everyone can kind of agree to a degree, and he has the majority. All right, he represents them. Like, I don't know.
Right, so you're a fascist. And then that's how that would get off rails. That's exactly how that would get off rails. You're like, never did I say that. You're like, yeah, but you said this.
Yeah, it's like, it's no longer like saying, hey, we've got a problem with this system. We got to work on the problem. It's, no, I got to score points.
Yeah, you're literally Hitler. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, right.
Well, what about that time that you and then now we're throwing mud at each other, and it's like, okay.
To speak of, today when I was driving.
Hitler got you excited. Cool. Wasn't that great?
No, so you're talking about like.
I guess we have our next thumbnail.
Just like,
all right, guys, that's been the show.
Like, oh, that's so bad. Okay.
Timing was impeccable.
He's like, no, he's like, Quentin was like, I got a point.
Bro. So it's kind of similar, but like you're saying, like it's all about scoring points. So like it's 2021, right? Well, I saw this billboard and he said, "No more China Joe," and it had Joe Biden with like his sleepy eyes with the Chinese military hat, and it said "Keep America Great 2020." I was like, that's still up.
Oh my god!
No more China Joe.
Oh my! Sometimes I wonder how we're still alive,
dude. It's like,
I just wonder some days how I'm alive and have a job.
So,
dude, you
so like
have
what
to
you're
go
saying,
into
though,
the
like,
mindset of life
a bit-
the same way we do everything else. Of like, I can't fail. Like, if you have that mindset, same thing. If I choose to believe that society's gonna keep moving forward, no matter what, it's not gonna come to an end. It's just gonna keep going, baby.
There's a racist depiction of our president on a billboard.
Well, I didn't even think of
my
that.
God.
I guess because he has the sleepy eyes. I didn't even think. I didn't even know. I just thought it's because he had good relations with China or something. I didn't even know,
Well, you
bro.
said China Joe, and you're like, on top of that, he had the
Well, it's like his,
split eyes.
because you always called him Sleepy Joe. Like, he looked like, and he had the Chinese hat. But it made me think of it when you said, yeah, you basically Hitler.
No,
like,
dude,
eventually
so
there's going to be
hold on.
billboards of like,
So I
that
think
I think
guy's
it is a
Hitler.
racist
I think this
interpretation.
points out another thing. Quentin looks
I
at
didn't
it
think
as
of that.
like, oh yeah, he's making fun of him because he's sleepy, and that's a main thing. And your narrative immediately goes to racism.
Well, I thought it was just like his foreign policy or something.
Here's what I'm
I
saying
didn't
though:
think-
it may not even be racist, but it can be perceived as racist,
Well, that's true. Yeah.
which is another problem we
thought it
have
was-
nowadays. It's like,
Does that make me racist for seeing racism?
well, no, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying is like, it's that same argument of like, you perceived it as racist, Quentin didn't. Quentin perceived it as like,
right.
oh, they're clearly making a reference because they called him Sleepy Joe. They made fun of the fact that he looked tired all the time. Like, how can he run the country if he's going to be sleeping? And you said, oh, well, he's got squinting eyes. That's kind of racist, and they're calling him China Joe.
Yeah. Well, they didn't say Sleepy Joe it just said China Joe. He just looked.
Yeah, you
That's
said
just how
Chinese
Joe Biden.
hat.
He does. He has a military hat with the Chinese thing on it. It says "No more China Joe," but
But
he just
see,
looks that way. That's how
this-
Joe Biden looks. His eyes are always
This
like
is
that. I mean,
this is where we get into that argument, though. If you can't know that person's intent, they could have literally
that's
just
true.
they could have 100% meant it to be racist, but they could have also 100% meant like there's no way anyone could misperceive the fact that we're making fun of him for being sleepy and that we really don't like that he's pretty much going to hand us over to China.
Dude, I just want to know who's still going back to that billboard place and paying the rent. Like, it's about to be May 2021, and someone's still like, "I'm paying to keep that up there."
That's just
Or
most
or
of the, most
no
of the
one
time.
new has bought it.
Yeah, that's typically what ends up
Oh,
happening.
okay.
Is no one new will buy the billboard.
Oh, okay. I thought they take it down after a certain amount, unless you pay rent and put their advertising.
I bet they're supposed to take it down, but it's still a job, and they're like, there's still somebody working at the end of the day.
Yeah,
They're
I
like,
feel like it's like some places.
it'll take care of
Yes,
itself.
they come down in time, and then there's others where it's like he paid me to put it up. I put it up for his amount of time. If no one else rents it, it's technically more money for me to go out there and do work.
That's
Like
true.
It's a
that
job.
rational- yeah.
I think the high profile ones, like when you get into the metropolitan area, like more closer to DFW or towns that are leading into DFW, I'm sure it's probably a tight ship.
Well, most
I'm
of
sure
them
where
they
you
do
saw it,
digital now.
It was
Well,
like,
it was in the Fort Worth, Arlington-ish area. That's where I do my Uber stuff. So I mean,
oh wow,
it was somewhere
Wow.
up there.
dang.
I don't really know.
Ouch.
I don't pay that close attention to where I'm at. Like when I'm doing it, I just follow the Jeep. But I just noticed it. I was like, okay.
Right. I'm glad to have people like you on the road. Thanks.
I don't pay attention. I just drive. Duh.
Just drive, dude. I just follow the little dog.
What do you
on my
mean
phone.
I
you
just
watch
hike
the
'em out.
road?
I hike mountains on 3 edibles. Yeah.
What do you
I
mean
don't
I'm
pay
being
attention
where I go.
irresponsible?
Yeah.
But I pay attention to politics. This is the archetype of person. Okay,
That's
Schwinn, this is the archetype that you exist in.
That's another
Okay.
thing. It's like when we took off for the trip, like they were like, "Where are you gonna stay at?" Or and I was like, we're just gonna drive and stay somewhere in New Mexico. And then like 4 hours later, she's like, "Where are we staying?" I was like, "I guess we'll see if we make it to Albuquerque." When we made it there, she's like, "Where do you want to stay?" I was like,
Oh,
"We don't got money for a hotel." Dude, we slept in a Walmart parking lot and just put towels up over our windows and just,
what's-
sleep there, bro.
What's hilarious to that is because I used to vacation to New Mexico all the time. That is not like it. makes me laugh because that's not an uncommon thing of people just putting stuff up in the windows, sleeping in like a random parking lot. Like
no one messed with us. We didn't wake up till like 8:30. No one. We had towels up and blankets. It was cool.
Dude, it's weird to me.
The funny thing about specifically New Mexico is when my mom lived out there on the road trip, we did take a few pit stops to catch a nap, and it felt safer there. Something about that area. Dude, I will say that.
I will almost say that it's because, like, at least in my experience, it's so much more rural. That it's not. There is not.
I don't know what it is.
Well, not Albuquerque, but most
Albuquerque
of
is like a city, but like most of it, dude, you're just driving. You may see like 3 cars pass you the other direction. Like,
I couldn't live in New Mexico because of the separation, but it was very pretty. It was relaxing being away from people. Mm-hmm. I liked Arizona better. They had more space than they needed. They had like 6 lanes on their highway, and we were sparsed out, and there were still empty lanes. I'm like, why do we have 2 in Fort Worth? That maybe gets to 3 or 4. Gosh. Yeah, I was like, this is sparse.
So,
but
side argument though, you can go somewhere like Houston, traffic's horrible, and they have like 6-lane highways. Like they have like a super highway, and it still gets backed up. I think it just comes down to population.
And also those highways, the problem is like you eventually have to end them. So that 6-lane turns into 2 somewhere. And it's like, this is the part that sucks.
I was in Mesa, like right outside Phoenix. So it was like a big highway, but it was just weird because like it was pretty casual traffic throughout most of the day. I was like, there wasn't even the busy times was not like what we have here.
I drove to and from Dallas today, both at bad times. And I'm just like, I'm reminded all the time of like why I can visit there and never live there. I'm like, this is terrible. It's like some guy full stopped on the highway because he missed his lane. Full stop. I'm like, you could kill 30 of us, you idiot.
Dude.
And like, there's like big trucks slamming on their brakes. An 18-wheeler like swerved into 2 different lanes. I almost died.
Bro, so
like,
oh my God. Funny. Is some guy just sitting there with his blinker on?
Funny thing is...
some idiot in an Xterra.
I've driven through Dallas one time, and Quentin was in the car with me when we were going to Arkansas. Dude, we missed our exit. We missed it. I didn't almost kill everyone in the vehicle. I was just like, we missed our exit. All right, let's find a place to get off, turn around, and find a different exit. Let's see what the GPS reroutes. Right. Because what was weird is we're
lawful good.
We're going
on the road. A lawful good.
We're going to Arkansas, and it's like, did you mean Houston? Like Houston was the exit, and it's like, dude, I'm trying to head north. Houston's south.
But you hook to Houston, and then you shoot up. You know what I mean? Like, it makes no sense. The highway system was made by raccoons in trench coats, but like. That's the archetype of the people again. So you have a lawful good on the road that's like, that's fine, we'll find the next one to turn around and we will wait our turn. And then there's the chaotic neutral that's like, it's like, what? You're gonna kill somebody, you idiot. But I get it. But here's the funny thing about like go ahead, Clay.
So if you want to laugh about it, so I took an alignment test to figure out what my alignment is. I'm actually lawful neutral.
I mean,
take that.
So, like, I just searched up, like, an alignment test, and I had, like, 30 to 40 questions. I went through, answered it, and it was like, here's what you answered on some of these. Here's what you answered on a bunch of others. It was like, yeah, you're lawful neutral. And what's hilarious, girlfriend took it, true neutral.
Oh, my gosh.
And I'm like, I was like, that's spot on for her.
So what's the difference between a true neutral and a lawful neutral? Like, you always abide by the law, and like she might be like, like as long as it doesn't hurt someone.
Yeah, like the best way I can describe lawful neutral is like, at least in my scenario for me, it's like I don't care one way or another as long as it's within the bounds of the law. The law is kind of what governs how things are. I don't see like a good side to it or a negative thing. I follow the law. It's like the argument with like marijuana. I have no problem with marijuana being legalized, but right now it's illegal. So therefore you should follow that law. Yes, you should petition to get it changed and everything, but you should follow the law while it's the law.
Yeah.
Right. This is going to turn to Nazism real quick. So like the lawful good thing, would a Nazi not be lawful good?
No,
because at that point in time, Jordan Peterson makes a good point on this. He said, if you grew up there, you would have been a Nazi, and you can't prove me wrong. And it's like, ouch, like,
this is the argument, though. Like I said earlier, it comes down to matter of perception, right? If you think you're doing good, you think you're lawful good. In actuality, you're probably lawful neutral.
As a Nazi?
Yeah, like, I'm going to say, like, there were probably lawful evil. There were probably lawful good in there. Like, depending on how
they were doing evil, but used it to their advantage. And then people who thought they were doing quote-unquote good, because, like, well, this is the law. This is what the leader wants.
Well, to a degree, because, like, I mean, if I were going to bring up that argument of, like, I mean, Nazi scientists and, like, the Japanese scientists who did horrible experiments, like, you realize the reason why we know so much about hypothermia? It's because they literally tried it on prisoners of war of how long can we leave them in the cold till they start to rot, and can we bring it back or not? It's like, that I would consider, like, I don't know how I look at that. Is that lawful evil, or is that just true evil? But at the end of the day, good came out of it. So, like, when I look at, like, most of it's going to be lawful neutral, because, like, the average everyday person was led to believe one thing, and they were acting within the bounds of the law. Because, like, dude, you got to think, like, how many actual German citizens knew that concentration camps were actually happening? In actuality, we were like, no, I agree. They should be in ghettos. They should be separated from us. We think they're lower, but, like, they don't know that they're going off and being shipped and murdered. So it's like, is that lawful neutral? It's weird to me, but I think lawful neutral is most of what it is. If it's like we're following the bounds of the laws that are set to us.
That's a scary territory about lawful good, quote unquote. I mean, just in real life, because that's the argument he brings up is like, if you were born there, if you have this type of personality, that you would have been a Nazi because you would have thought that was the way of life. And he's like, you're not wrong. It's just nobody wants to outright be like, you know, everyone will be like, no, I would have fought the power. No, you wouldn't. You don't fight the power right now. Let's just be real with yourself. If you grew up at that time, I'm not saying you're a Nazi now. I'm just saying, based off the laws of the country and the way you follow that alignment, is like you potentially would have been. It's scary.
My argument to that, like, while I understand, like, that's true for a broad spectrum, for me being lawful neutral, my thing is, like, just like in, like, D&D and stuff like that, where we're getting the alignment and everything like that, your alignment can change. So, like, being a lawful neutral person, you're going to react one of two ways. You're going to stay lawful neutral and keep going with the flow on things. But there are some people who will get so fed up and they'll try to fight the system within, and they're not getting their way. And then they're like, no, I am going to fight the power. So you can also make the argument of, like, well, I haven't been pushed to that point yet. That's where, like, that argument gets dangerous. That one, to me...
Are you saying, like, a lawful good could still stand for the power, because in their eyes, lawful good is still not hurting people? My truth and my virtue is not hurting people, putting them in ghettos.
So what I'm saying is, like, I can be, like, think about it. Slavery was a thing, but yes, it had a war fought on it, but at the same time, we went down less, like, then we had actual, like, separation and stuff like that after the war. Slavery was over, but it still got pushed to a point that laws had to be changed, and they had to fight those laws to get them changed. My argument would be almost along the same lines of, like, you could get pushed to your breaking point to where you turn into someone like, you had Malcolm X, who was considered radical, but you also have people like MLK. Get what I'm saying? Like, I'm saying there are some people within that system that could get pushed so far that they become radicalized. They are fighting the system. Would be my argument.
And some people are like, it's not even radical. He's like a softie. But I think that is fun. So, like, what's the archetype of the person that's like, what's the archetype of the person?
Well, no, like, so, like,
the war wasn't about slavery. It was about states' rights, son.
Well, no, but see, that's my thing is, when it comes to, like, Jordan Peterson making that statement, And it'd be like, no, you're just wrong. That's empirical fact. It's like, for a majority, maybe, but at the same time, without being in the scenario, there's also could be the argument of, well, you don't do that now. It's like, I also haven't been pushed to the point that I feel I need to radicalize. And like, you could almost argue, like, obviously that isn't true when we've got riots and looting and stuff like that when it comes to Black Lives Matter. They believe the system is doing wrong and they are fighting back.
So still for the majority is correct, because you can't address everyone, unfortunately, but yeah, still for the majority is correct.
So that's where it's like, it comes down to like, he says majority correct, but the argument is I can answer that argument by making the same hypothesis of saying, well, yeah, they just haven't been pushed to their breaking point yet. They haven't determined that's their breaking point.
I think that's
but those people, a lot of those people, there's always going to be that. Though. A lot of those people didn't stand up. It was another country. It was other countries fighting. You know what I mean? Coming into their country. A lot of those people never stood up and were just like, I mean, hey, like, this is a situation I can't do anything about.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not disagreeing with that statement. But what I'm saying is,
still
like,
the majority.
It's also setting up an unfair argument. You know what I mean? It's let me make a generalized statement. Well, okay, let me make a generalized statement back. Not everyone has been pushed to their breaking point yet. And his argument is, well, you wouldn't have ever reached your breaking point. Well, we don't know. We're not there.
You know what's funny too? Okay, speaking of this, while on the topic, did y'all see he got turned into like a Marvel comic? He's like they made the Red Skull him. So if y'all are not familiar with the Red Skull, he's Marvel's version of like Hitler, right? There is a screen cap and in the comic where the Red Skull's like on screen and he has like material next to him and the Red Skull, and it's like 10 rules for life instead of 12, and it's like order and chaos, which is this is like something that Jordan Peterson talks about. And then there was one more thing on there that Jordan references, but it was about the Red Skull was reading his Marvel material. And then it went on this, like, the next few panels of the comic are talking about how the Red Skull got buy-in from all these young men who were lost. And, you know, he spoke to them and all this stuff, making him out, like, his ideals to align with, like, Nazism.
See, like,
so what he did.
That's a case of a straw man.
Well, there's a lot of layers to this, but what he did, and this is hilarious, so, because there's the memes of him with like talking about lobsters. They took the Hail Hydra logo and they turned it into a lobster, and it's like order and chaos, clean your room, and you can buy it, and then all the proceeds go to charity. So they turned it into a win. But it's just so funny how people who aren't familiar with his work somehow try to twist him into being in like a fascist, you know, like a Nazi. And it's like, dude, it's like he actually speaks against those ideals. Where does that come from?
See, well, I mean, my thing is, like, my reason for not liking Jordan Peterson is completely different. Like, my argument is never like, it's that he, like, his approach to it is, I'm going to make something that's an extremely generalized thing, and then I'm going to take it, and I'm going to give you a couple of reasons as to why that's true. And it's like, okay, you cannot generalize when arguing things. Like, that is, like, you just can't. And that's what bothers me.
Okay, and here's why I disagree. Because he's a clinical psychologist, so when he speaks, it's like, I have 40 years of working with people, so when I tell you something, it is based off of all of this data, and then I have I feel like it's right up your alley, honestly, Clayton, because like he'll have his speech, he'll have his lecture, and it's abstract, right? There'll be some practicality in it, but it'll be abstract. But in different lectures, when he has to explain, like, look, where is this coming from? He's like, I studied this literature for months before I said this. I studied this for months before I came to this conclusion. And then there's some papers, he's like, I keep going back to this throughout my entire career, and I cannot get a different perspective on this. I've consulted this. He has empirical data for these patterns of people. So I feel like it's actually up your alley if you delve into it.
My thing is, I've delved into it. I just don't like it. I don't know how to describe it other than, like, it just, his approach to it is like, it just does not come off as correct to me. 'Cause, like, it's one of those things that is, that I can't take it from the horse's mouth. Like, he's like, well, I've looked at this and this and this and this, and it's like, I don't agree with you. I get that you're trying to tell me the facts, but when there are other people arguing the other side of that and giving you that, who are also in the same field, it's like, okay, there are now reputable people arguing on both sides. It's like, I cannot draw a conclusion without looking into it myself. And I'll be honest, I've looked at like research papers and stuff like that. Dude, I'm not smart enough to comprehend half the language they're using. I'm not smart enough to understand the data and analytics to it. So for me, it's like, I don't know how I take a stance on that. I'm not quite sure.
And then here's the other thing, though. Like, I can like, you know, be in love with someone's ideas and then they still be wrong about some things. Like, his perception of Marxism is like, no one agrees. Like, I haven't seen anyone who agrees with his perspective on Marxism. I'm not a Marxist. I'm not even deep in that. But there's people who, they're like, his perspective of that is just twisted. It's not what he makes it out to be. But that's, again, I'm wrong about half the stuff I talk about. He can be wrong about stuff he talks about. But he can be extremely correct about what he knows, his years of, you know, clinical psychology. And he's like, here's what gives life, here's what I've noticed gives people purpose and meaning and so on and so forth, how to sort out your life.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
But you can be wrong about something else.
But
you know what I mean? Like us.
Couldn't the argument for me just be like, stay in your lane? Because like you said, I don't agree with his stance on Marxism. Okay, cool. Then like that can be the same reason I don't like him. And my opinion on it can be like, he needs to stay in his lane. Because, like, I guess that's kind of my problem with him is, like, there are some things that I do agree with him on, but there are others where I'm like, no, you're just wrong, and what you're painting this out to be is incorrect. Like, that's my thing, is there's that part of, like, I'm an and I feel like it happens to a lot of people who are, like, really famous like that. I'm an expert in this field. That's why I'm also an expert on this subject, this subject, this subject. And it's like, you're not. You are an expert in this field. While you have some relation to that, there's a reason why to be an expert in this field is something completely different.
It's the curse of success, because how he got big, his intention was never to be famous. You know what I mean? Like, he just got big because people were filming him while he had a disagreement, and then he just popped off. Mm-hmm. And it was just like the 1 in a million chance, you know what I mean? Like, he was never like trying to get big. Like, yeah, he wrote a book, but people don't write books to be celebrities. They write books they want to sell some books, you know what I mean? And then he got popped off because that video of him disagreeing with those people about pronouns. And then now he's in the media. And then now his lectures that he was putting on YouTube just for the sake of putting them out just took off, and people would chop him into motivational videos and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And, you know, he's at where he's at today, 3 books later, you know, podcast after podcast after He's probably done 20 podcasts within the past 14 days.
Hey, bro.
Just working. So this curse of success, God, I went on a rabbit trail. Sorry.
Just the
like
curse of success
DJ
is Khaled,
that
bro.
People are like, what's your opinion on this? Well, what's your opinion on this? Oh, okay. Well, let me tell you. That's what I've meant to do.
I was going to bring that up.
Well, it's like
I was going to bring that up. Yeah. People just come at him.
DJ Khaled's album, bro, Suffering From My Success.
That's right, bro. And like, he knew, okay, he knew that.
It's just
DJ Khaled taught Jordan Peterson that. That is funny.
Like, it's just weird, dude. I don't like it. Like, I'm one of those people that is like, stay in your lane to a degree. But the thing is, he's not going to, because there's money incentive. He makes money by not staying in his lane.
I think he tries to, but it's like, you have to. It's not like he has fans at this point. You know what I mean? And if I was in that position and I'm like, well, I want to talk about self-improvement, and then I had fans and they were like, what's your opinion on Bitcoin? I'd be like, I don't really want to talk about that, but people keep asking. So you know what I mean? It's like, let me just give the people what they want. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's this?
But isn't that isn't that kind of the argument of like, when you do something and the reason why it's successful is because you're doing it for your reasons, and then once you branch out, you're doing it for other people. You know what I mean? Like, he's letting his fan base kind of control him at that point.
I think that's only like a tiptoe thing, because most of the time it still relates to his clinical psychology stuff. Because he was on his daughter's podcast, his most recent episode, and she had her audience ask him questions, and one of the most viral ones, he got cut into a clip, and has almost 1 million views. She's like, "Okay, my audience wants to know, what's your advice for a guy in his mid-20s?" And he's like, he kind of thinks about it, and he's like, starts talking. You know what I mean? It's like, that's his fan base asking that question, which it relates to his field. It's just so specific that they're like, we want to know.
Yeah.
But, I think, and then here's the other thing. We went way another direction, but the fun thing about your adventure I'm glad you're alive from, Schwinn. Jesus Lord. Some people like you, I don't know how you make it out of these situations, sleeping in parking lots, and we took edibles up a mountain. It's funny, and like I mean, at least for me, I poke fun at you, but the truth is, like, do it, because like you're never gonna do it again. You know what I mean? Like, I was thinking about the other day, like, you're never gonna have a lot of these things again. So yeah, live it up while you can. You just scare me. Some people like you freak me out. I do. I think I'm spontaneous until I meet people like you, and I'm okay, I feel orderly.
This is what makes me laugh, though. Is like how Quentin always tells us, like, well, I don't know, like, y'all think like y'all have y'all's thing and stuff like that, and it's hard to like kind of make Quentin understand your thing is not having a thing. Like, to understand that, like, you're just willing to just do stuff. Like, I feel like you're very open-minded when it comes to, like, dude, let's try this. You're just like, oh, okay. Like, for us, like, we're kind of in that, like, deal of, like, this is kind of what we do. We dabble a little bit outside, but we kind of stick within our lane of what we do. Whereas you're more just like, nah, I'm okay with getting out of my lane on things. Like, and you will do those things, and you do it consistently. Whereas, like, me and Devin, it's like, okay, maybe once a month I'll try something I haven't tried before. Whereas for you, you're like, every day that could be a possibility.
I also feel like that's probably because I haven't discovered my lane, if that makes sense. Like,
I agree.
But that's what I'm saying. That is your lane.
But,
You get what I'm saying? Is your lane is not having one. Your open-mindedness and willing to try stuff is your lane. Like, your lane in and of itself, you're like, yeah, I don't have those things. But your thing is, because you're able to be so broad, you're going to have all these experiences that we don't have.
I mean, maybe, but see, I wanted to have those experiences. Like, I still want to travel. I want to see other places. That may not be something that like you want, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, guys, y'all got anything else y'all want to cover?
Yeah, like that's a weird thing about travel is like, I don't know, man. I'm trying to open that lane up, but it's like the thing not having a thing, but is traveling a personality trait, or is that a cope? Kind of like having a PC.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a personality trait at all. 100%. Like,
I don't think it's a cope either, but I think like maybe like, I don't even know if it's not having a thing. It's like, maybe it is like, I'm the travel guy. You know what I mean? Like, you always have this story of like, we drink coffee in the Appalachians in a restaurant that was up a mountain. We did this in Europe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
I mean, that's like the first time I've traveled in a long time. I think it's just like Clayton said, I'm just more like, I guess I'll try this to see what happens. Like, when I was like, I told him I ate a fried banana and he was just laughed at me. But like stuff like that, I don't know, man. To the smallest stuff.
Okay, I don't think a fried banana is the most adventurous thing you could be doing. But okay. I mean, of that was this summer. I hiked up a mountain. We slept in a parking lot. I was almost in a knife fight. I also ate a fried banana. And then, like, what? Yeah, a fried banana? Why is that your go-to?
It's funny because it's like he doesn't understand the arc to things. Like, if you're going to tell that, you start off with the fried banana, your arc is wrong.
And
it's
then
like
work to
high, low, and then extreme high. And it's just like, okay, dude, the pacing was off.
Well, also, it's like, was there like a, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we were at like, you know, we were at this lady's house who does voodoo and she made fried bananas. It's like, nah, just fried up a banana. I don't know. It's like me telling you I ate some spam the other day. I had some spam the other day. Okay. Tell me about it. Like, what? Dude. So, yeah, but I know, what's up with these voting laws that are supposedly racist? Educate me.
I don't know. I just know very briefly. All I saw was like the headlines.
I think you know. I can see the fear in your eyes.
The fear in my eyes. I mean, all I know is it's supposed to be harder. It's just supposed to be harder for you to vote.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to be like one ballot box per county. Yeah, like one ballot box per county, and I can't even remember the rest of the stuff, man. But you can't give them refreshment. Oh yeah, that's what it was in the lines. Yeah, that's a misdemeanor now.
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty simple as to why that stuff's targeted. Like, it may not even...
How is it racist?
I'd see, that's the line I have trouble drawing. You can definitely argue that it's targeting one side, and then you could make the argument of, like, well, it's hard to say it without coming out and being like, hey, you know, we're limiting it to one ballot box per county. Okay, it's just so happens that the only communities that affect happen to be primarily African American because it's primarily city. It's racist while being indirectly racist.
Yeah,
It's a target of one side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's just like gerrymandering or something like that.
It's similar
to voter suppression. I would like to call it voter suppression more so because, I mean...
That's a good way to determine it. Because, like, when you look at, like, it's clearly targeted to make it go in your favor because it's like, okay, where are the sides that definitely voted this way? Okay, like if you look at Democrats, like most Democrats are going to be closer to higher populous areas. That's just a fact. That's the way that it is. There are ones out in rural, but those are the outliers. And then it's like, oh, we're going to limit it down to one ballot, like one ballot box in a county. And it's like, okay, cool. In the rural counties, that doesn't affect them at all. They were pretty much already doing it. But now that it's like, okay, we have, you know, let's say 3 million people now who can only use one ballot box. And also, by the way, we've limited the line. Like, you can only have, you know, you can only vote between this direct time and this direct date. And now we crammed it so where it's so hard to get in.
I heard it was shorter.
Just go online.
No, so
instead of 4 weeks, it's 2 weeks or something.
That's with the online, with the mail-in ballots. So it is literally.
We should just go online then.
It's literally you have this amount of time within the 2 weeks to mail in your ballot. If you mailed it in and we haven't received it within that 2 weeks because the mail system is lacking, that's not our problem. Your vote doesn't count.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, like we said, Devin said, if we went online, people would just feel like it's...
Yeah, it's too easily exploitable. That's why we have Bodie McDuckface and then Hitler did nothing wrong as a Mountain Dew flavor. Can't trust the internet.
No, but I mean, I think we could figure out some way because if we're still using our archaic,
you know how we could do it. You know how we could do it on the blockchain. There's a public ledger of every vote.
But then that's tricky. That's tricky because you could see my vote. You could see my vote.
That would clear off everything. Then no one would. Nope. There would be no double voting.
Nope.
No, you start seeing people's votes, that gets really tricky.
Yep.
Because
that gives me the ability to influence your decision by means of force and intimidation.
Yeah, and it's like
So
that gets real bad.
Because what if you start a company that keeps a private ledger?
Can't do it
to keep it secure.
Then it's not a public ledger.
Dang it!
What if we take a public ledger and make it private? It's private now.
Well, I mean, here's my thing. Another thing with that is like the reason why it can't be moved online is because nothing is secure when it comes to something like that. That decision has so much weight. Foreign interests are going to be constantly attacking it. We constantly have infrastructure set up for our military, something we consider highly important, like military intelligence. There's breaches in that constantly. So it's like, no,
We're
you
just
can't
gonna have
do
to
it.
go early 2000s American Idol. Call in. Who do you want your president to be? Just call in. We got 68 text messages right now. We have people waiting to answer your call.
Next thing,
I'd be down for that.
call spoofing doesn't work.
Dude, I feel like the system right now is I want to say archaic. But I also don't have a solution or even an idea of what would be better. But it's starting to feel ancient.
And that's the problem. What's the better solution? And like, we can't come up with a better solution.
What if you go vote? Well, no, that wouldn't work.
Exactly. See, that's the problem.
What if you vote?
Like, see, like, but,
I was thinking like with the fingerprint, but then like everyone would have to get thumbprinted, and then
yep.
that would obviously
Government
start some
conspiracy.
controversy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
See, every solution you have, there's 30 million arguments as to why you shouldn't be doing that.
Which is why we have to pick a one. Like, you know, it's just like our isms we have. You know what I mean? It's like capitalism. We can argue till the sun does, you know, a million freaking. The sun doesn't rotate around us. God dang it. The point is, we can argue day and night about capitalism. And it's like, okay, what's your solution? And it's like, well, my ism. It's like, your ism doesn't work. Check this country. It's like, well, this ism doesn't work. Well, it wasn't true of it wasn't true communism. Okay, let's get that. You know, it's like, what's your better solution? And then capitalism isn't perfect either. It's like, well, it's kind of the best one we have.
Well,
and then you're like, what is it?
It's flawed humans doing flawed things. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can't make. And then you never get the truth. Perfect materials.
Yeah, and you never get the truth because, like, what we have now, a lot of people argue is corporatism, not capitalism.
Well, even then, like you said, your truth. What's truth?
Yep. What
you know
ism?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know, dude. It's just you're never like you're not gonna come up with a solution as to our political issues in in 30-minute conversation. Like, it's something. Think about it. People have spent their whole lives on and haven't cracked the code.
Yeah, dude. I mean, even ancient times, dude. The philosophers, you know, would debate, and it's like the problem is still not solved. And those were some of the most intellectual minds still. And then, you know what I mean? Like, even like one of the smartest people who ever lived on his deathbed said, "All I know is that I know nothing."
Well, I mean, even then, it's like, okay, well, what's our next stage after this, right? I mean, the only logical stage is trying to build a utopia, and then it's like, well, there's so many problems with the utopia, but it's like, I mean, really,
utopia.
That's what I'm saying is like, what's the next stage? Utopia is the next logical advancement of, okay, well, people don't want to work. Well, okay, let's create a solution where they don't have to do stupid jobs. They can follow their dream. And it's like, well, you can't do that. Humans can't deal with that little of structure. And it's like, well, that's the closest thing I can think of, which would be the next logical jump. I agree there's flaws in it, but there's a reason why, like, you're so pumped about Elon, Devin, but I don't think you understand that if Elon does half the things he wants to do, like, he wants us to have the ability to asteroid mine. Okay, cool. That eliminates, like, the need for certain resources. Like, it starts opening that can of worms of utopia. So what do we do?
No, I was going to say utopia is a disaster. That is hell. That is asking for hell and disaster. A utopia is horrible. That's the problem with utopia, because I don't think people should live in misery and suffering, you know, spending 50 years at a job they hate. I don't think that. But to have everything you want, you would be very short. It would be very short-lived of bliss. And then you have misery. You have no purpose. You have no goal. It happens right now. People live in their own utopia of just consumption. And it's like they're living in hell.
Oh, so
utopia is bad.
That's a different that's a different perception of utopia, right? So, like, I look at utopia, and I agree with most of what you're saying, but to sit here and pretend there would be no logical reason to push out, it's because that's what we do, baby. Like, at the end of the day, you're like, oh, that sounds horrible. Like, yeah, our next step could be like, that's freed up so much revenue and so much time. Now we're focusing on exploring. Like, science has reached a new level of exploration, because why not? Like, I get what you're saying. Like, oh, no one would have purpose. But at the same time, I'm like, no, people will assign purpose to themselves, even if it's something dumb.
It is a weird area, because I think most people would I think the artists would take off. Like, there would be much more produced at a mass scale of just any type of creative pursuit, not just paintings, but any type of what you would consider creative. Filmmakers, photographers, musicians, like art would just take off because they have more time. The people who are true artists that are stuck in a 9-to-5 or stuck, being a lawyer or an accountant because mommy and daddy wanted them to, they can now do that and live their ideal self. But I think a lot of people would end up in misery because they don't know. They don't have, there's nothing driving them. And I'm not saying only artists, but I'm saying there's some people that are just, they're good with their hands. There's some people that like, man, if I had no more jobs, I'd be building birdhouses all day, or I'd be building houses for the home. You know what I mean? Like, so that's fine, carpentry or whatever. That would thrive, but there'd just be so many that would just, I don't know what we do.
I don't disagree with you, but the argument could be, and y'all may not like me for it because, like, okay, well, maybe that's where we need to trim the fat. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to put it.
Thanos?
I hate to. Oh yeah, I'm completely on Thanos' side. We're overpopulated. There are too many people. I'm
wipe them half.
Thanos was not the bad guy. I don't. Oh, this life is precious. Well, if they never existed, then it wasn't really an issue. I just more have a problem with Thanos' idea behind it of okay, you have all these stones that can change the world. Instead of creating a foolproof plan of when you snap of I'm going to snap and everyone's going to forget about those things that they lost. Bam, problem solved. Avengers don't come back and kill him. I have a problem because he didn't think it all the way through. He didn't follow through fully on his plan.
He also would have the ability to just create more resources.
Yeah.
But in the comic version is my problem with him, because it's the biggest. He is the universe's, the reality's simp. He did it for Lady Death. He wanted to impress her and killed half of the population. That is, could you be a bigger simp? I'm glad he got dropped.
No. So here's the thing. You may not like that, but this plot hole that you threw up is only a plot hole in the movie. So in the movie, why didn't he just snap and create double the resources? It's because that's the plot the movie took. That is a plot hole in the premise of that movie. In the comic, yes, he wants to impress Lady Death. There's a reason behind it of why he doesn't just double the resources. There's an actual purpose that makes sense.
You
may not like the purpose, but it doesn't have a plot hole in it.
Yeah, Simp Nation over here. Exactly. Making everyone I'm going to impress Lady Death. Oh my God, bro. What a fuck. Oh, God, don't even get me started on that. But that's the whole thing. That's the scary part of I don't know. That's why the UBI is tricky. Because of course, I'd take some extra money, but it's it can create more problems. Are those problems worth it? What's the sacrifice? Making the sacrifice worth it? Because I understand everything that have a problem. Is the problem worth it?
My thing with universal basic income is it does make sense to a degree. Same thing, if it comes down to a degree of measurement, COVID happening and everything like that, in emergency scenarios like that, it should be a thing. These people didn't have a choice in the matter. So it's it just depends on where you want to draw that line, right? You can't argue universal basic income would be horrible for everyone. Well, yeah, if it goes too far, but that's with anything. If anything goes too far, it can be a problem. So it's the question is, where do you draw the line to where it's beneficial enough? I agree that we need it, but I also don't know quite where I draw that line on it.
Like the amount?
No, not even the amount. Just like COVID was an experience of like, this is why we need universal basic income. All these people lost. So like for me, it's like, okay, times of emergency, it shouldn't be a question of, well, should we give them stimulus checks? It's like we should have gotten one for every month, enough to take care of rent and food within reason.
Well, I think with stimulus, yeah, that's a whole thing. I think with universal basic income, my thing with it is I don't think I think it's an interesting idea.
We'll see.
But it's like understanding what's the logistics. Where's the money come? Like, how am I paying it back? If I'm getting an extra $12,000 a month, where's it coming out of?
Well,
you know, and then some of the ideas, like, are they like you abolish Social Security because you're going to have this for your life? It's like, where's the logistics? Like,
then we get into the argument of the logistics, and then it comes down to, okay, we have this much in military spending. We shouldn't have that much. We're not taxing these people. They need to be taxed. And then it's like, okay, well, we have all these stupid expenditures that we've decided we need. Like, there are a lot of programs that it's like, this is a waste of money, and that's always what the argument is. Like, this is a waste of money. No, it's not. This is why it's necessary. It comes down to that argument. Oh, where does the money come from? Well, as soon as we give you an argument of like, this is where we should take the money from. Well, we can't take the money from there. It's the most important thing ever, even though we haven't been talking about it for 30 years.
Right. No, agreed.
Like,
and that's my thing. I'm like, no, I understand. Everything comes with a price. Everything comes with a sacrifice. And what am I sacrificing if I take on UBI? But, well, you'd pay this more.
I mean,
is it worth it? You know what I mean? Or what would lose? We cut money here.
Maybe
that's worth it.
I still have the argument of the way that our taxes should work whenever we fill out our tax forms and stuff like that. There should be a base percentage that goes to everything, and then you get to distribute where you want your taxes to go. So, like, you bubble in this amount here. This is where I want a majority of my money to go. Each one has, like, a baseline of, like, each one has to have a minimum of 5% or something like that. And you go through the list. All right, these have it. Then you have, like, let's say 50% to play with. You get to decide where that 50% goes. So we know we're getting bare minimum funding on everything else. Those things are being taken care of. We've determined this is the baseline that we need those to run at. Now we let you decide where you want the money to go. Oh, you think education's a big deal? Cool, that's where money's going to go. Oh, you think law enforcement funding is where money should go? Bam, that's your idea. You get to throw money at it.
I think things would honestly be better that way.
A point-buy system.
To a degree,
that's literally, yeah. I mean, I agree with it. I'm just that's the comparison. Is you have this many base stats, you can boost them to a degree of this.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's my thing. That's how I've felt like taxes should be done. Now, I'm sure there's people out there smarter than me and tell me exactly why that system doesn't work, but in theory, it works just like every theory.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like, well, what's the sacrifice? It's like, the potential outcome is that you have. What would be funny is if the law of averages would negate that. That would be funny. Is that if we have that option and then everything stays the same because the law of averages.
But here's the
That'd be crazy. It would at least feel empowering.
Here's the difference. Yeah, exactly. There's you have choice.
Yeah.
So provide them choice, even if that's what happens. Cool. You made your choice. That is where it goes. So, like, I'm sure
that'd be so funny.
That would be so feel funny. Like, now, if we followed further down that rabbit hole, let's say the law of averages happen. Now we come back to the same thing of like, well, I don't think they're actually going by those numbers. There's no way they're going by those numbers.
It's like we did all this. We had this radical uprising to redo this, and nothing changed. But well, yeah, because y'all, in essence, y'all voted to keep everything the same. It was impossible. Actually, not.
But it makes things better for a short period.
Yeah.
And then you also, like, the other argument I could see as to why it couldn't work that way is it's like, okay, what do we decide the baseline is for each thing? What are we
cutting?
What is our minimum?
We're cutting pensions. We're cutting fund.
Well, no, it's like, what is, like, too low? Like, if the event, a certain thing, got voted by virtually no one. So everyone gave their base 2% to it, and that was it. And like,
well, no.
that would
See,
be the only thing.
That's my thing. Is like you don't get to pick just. You have to utilize the whole matrix of it. You have to do the full amount. It has to total 100%. But you start off at a baseline. You only have 50% to spend. There is no, well, I don't want to spend 1%. You don't get an option to do that.
No, I'm saying, yeah, but you have the 100 you're playing with, and everything has a base of like what, 2? Everything has a base of like what, 5? I'm saying in theory, if like, let's say it was police, because of political climate, nobody voted for that. So they only got everyone's 2% base. And it's like, they're screwed because now they're working with 2% of the money pool, but which is like a fraction of what they used to have.
My idea, that's the point of having the base. The base 2% should be able to keep things kind of where they're at right now. If you think it should have more money in it to improve, cool, you allot the money there.
Yeah, it would have to be figured out beforehand.
Yeah.
Like any cuts.
I don't know. I'm sure we could sit here for the next 40 minutes dissecting why it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But do y'all have anywhere else y'all think it could go? Or do y'all want to just call it?
No, I'm good, brother.
All right. So where can we find us, Quentin?
Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Nobody Named Kevin Podcast.
All right. Well, this has been the Nobody Named Kevin Podcast. Thanks for listening.